Hello everyone. Today we are flying from Clearview Air Park, northwest Baltimore, to Bay Bridge Airport on Kent Island on Maryland's beautiful eastern shore. And we'll get a good look at Baltimore's inner harbor as we fly over. This is my first cross-country flight in the Beaver. Hopefully there'll be many more. So let's go. Welcome to Digital Flight. We're here in the run-up area at Clearview Air Park in Westminster, Maryland. The field identifier is 2 Whiskey 2. Hi, I'm Joe and I'll be your pilot today. Before we get into the takeoff checklist, let's take a look at some flight planning. We'll start with the SkyVector flight planning software. There's our departure point, top left, Clearview Air Park, northwest Baltimore. And we'll be flying down to Bay Bridge down on the lower right. But we'll take a route that keeps us clear of the special flight rules area around DC and the lower tier of the Class Bravo around Baltimore. And that's on down to the Pier 7 heliport in the inner harbor. We'll overfly that, and that keeps us clear of all the controlled airspaces. And then on down to Bay Bridge on the eastern shore on Kent Island. Now let's take a look at the flight plan form that I filled out. So here's the nav log that I make up for myself. It's got the aircraft ID, departure, destination, VFR. And here's our departure point, 2 Whiskey 2 Clearview Air Park, down to the midpoint, waypoint, the heliport, Pier 7. That's 130 degrees, 24 miles. From there down to our destination, which is Whiskey 29 Bay Bridge Airport, 159 degrees, 21 miles. Alright, so now we'll take a look at the moving map display. Here we are, up there at Clearview. We'll be flying down this way, overflying the heliport right here, and then on down to Bay Bridge. We'll go ahead and do the pre-takeoff checklist now. Prop full increase, mixture rich, carb heat is on, elevator trim set for takeoff. And we'll set the rudder trim also. Flap set to takeoff position. It's 2 notches there. Radios and avionics set. I'll check the landing light, strobe light, nav lights, repeated heat, and boost pump on. Check our engine instruments look good, and transponder is set to altitude. And we're ready to taxi on out for takeoff now. Area is clear. Lined up, and we're ready to go. So we'll get the plane cleaned up for cruise, get up to altitude. As I mentioned, we're south of Westminster, heading southeast and just about crossing Route 97. Out ahead you'll see Liberty Reservoir. I have the Baltimore XP scenery package loaded, but it doesn't come out this far, so all you see in this area is the default scenery which comes with X-Plane 11. It's pretty sparse out here, so there's not much to see in this area, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to the Baltimore suburbs out around 695, so we'll see you there. So we're just inside the Baltimore Beltway now, basically flying down parallel with Route 26, which is Liberty Heights Avenue. You can see the buildings of downtown Baltimore's Inner Harbor out ahead just over the nose. Passing under our right wingtip is Lake Ashburton, or Ashburton Reservoir. And up ahead on the left, you'll see Druid Hill Park and the home of the Maryland Zoo. Just beyond the park is Druid Hill Park Lake, and beyond that is the Jones Falls Expressway heading right downtown into Baltimore. There's our first look at the two stadiums. The first one, or the one on the left, closest to us, is Oriole Park at Camden Yards. And the second one is the M&T Bank Stadium, home of the Ravens. Coming up on our left is Greenmount Cemetery, where John Wilkes Booth is buried in the Booth family plot. He, of course, assassinated President Lincoln in Ford's Theater in D.C. in 1865. There's another look at the two stadiums, Oriole Park and the M&T Bank Stadium. There's the tallest building in Baltimore, the Trans-America Tower, and the second tallest is the Bank of America building, and the World Trade Center there at the Inner Harbor. Inner Harbor, home of Baltimore's Light Street Pavilion, the National Aquarium in Baltimore, the Maryland Science Center, and a not-so-well-known Museum of Industry, which is a very well-done, interesting history of the industrial growth and decline in Baltimore. Turn down toward the Bay Bridge. And out there on the right, out the right window, you see Fort McHenry. It's famous for the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave. Out there's a coal yards, Consolidated Energy coal yards, coal pier. Out ahead there's the Seagirt Marine Terminal and the Dundalk Marine Terminals. We're flying over now. There's another shot up the Patapsco River in the Inner Harbor to downtown Baltimore. And Seagirt that we're flying over there now. And now we're coming up to the Francis Scott Key Bridge, in a location where Francis Scott Key was detained on board a British warship and penned the words to the national anthem. there on the left is Sparrows Point, originally home of Bethlehem Steel and Bethlehem Steel Shipbuilding Company, where they built super tankers. Now it's Trade Point Atlantic. And way out to the left, lower left wing beyond Sparrows Point, is an area known as North Point, figured prominently in the War of 1812 when the British landed troops there to destroy Baltimore. In the late 1800s, a fort was built there as part of the Spanish-American War effort, and it's now a park and a veterans hospital. So now we're going to be flying over the mouth of the Patapsco River. There's not much to see out here, so I'm going to jump ahead to that next point of land, which is the mouth of the Bodkin. That's Bodkin Creek coming up there now on the right. This whole area was explored by Captain John Smith in the early 1600s. On the north side of the creek is Bayside Beach and Hickory Point. Coming up under the right wing is Boyd Pond, also known as Hancock Pond, since it's located on property acquired by the Hancock family in the 1700s. After 8 generations of Hancocks lived there, the property was left to the Annapolis Historical Society, and today it's a beautifully restored family farm, open to the public and cared for by Anne Arundel County. On the south side of Bodkin Creek is Bodkin Neck and Bodkin Point. There's several nice marinas on that creek. The creek breaks into numerous small branches and coves. One of the coves on the southern branch is Locust Cove, right under the plain there. Locust Cove forms the western boundary of a beautiful county park that spans the neck from the cove to the bay. Downs Park. It's a beautiful small county park with a fishing pier, dog beach, playground, picnic areas, and hiking trails. I love to go there and watch the pair of nesting bald eagles that return every year. If you look off to the east, you can't really see it, but out there is Love Point on the eastern shore. It's the northern tip of Kent Island where we're headed. Coming up is the Magathie River. It's mostly a tidal river. About 12 miles upriver is a dam that's originally built in an old mill. The dam forms Lake Waterford. And coming up there at the mouth of the Magathie is Gibson Island. It's a private island with a man-made causeway you can see right there off the wingtip. It started out in the 1920s as a summer resort, but is now an exclusive year-round gated community. And beyond that, beyond the mouth of the Magathie, is Sandy Point State Park. Sandy Point State Park opened in 1952. It's a starting point for the annual Great Chesapeake Bay Swim, a 4.4 mile race every June between the spans of the Bay Bridge, which you can just barely see out there now. The race ends at a beach near Hemingway's restaurant on Kent Island. The park is also home of the Polar Bear Plunge every January. We'll be flying over the Bay Bridge in just a minute. It's 4.3 miles long with a maximum vertical clearance of 186 feet. The original span was built in 1952. The second span was added in 1973. The bridge is home to the annual Across the Bay 10K. Due to maintenance, it was a virtual race last year, sort of like this flight. So there's a look at the Bay Bridge out there. You can just see it right there. And down to the left is Sandy Point Light, one of the lighthouses that help guide the ships into Baltimore Harbor. And we're about ready to start our letdown into Bay Bridge, so I'll shut down the autopilot. And we'll reduce the throttle and head on down. We'll descend down to about 800 feet. The airport's right at the edge of the bay. Its elevation is 15 feet. So we'll fly our traffic pattern at 800. And just crossing over the twin spans of the Bay Bridge there. And you can just make out the airport off the left wingtip. Pretty much right at the end of the bridge. But the bridge curves to the left out there, curves to the north. Right there at the end of the bridge. Turn toward the airport now, toward the left downwind. And you can see the airport there, just to the left of the nose, right at the end of the Bay Bridge. We'll start working through our approach checklist. Boost pump on, heat on, landing lights on. There's the airport right to the left. You can see the hangars there. Turn parallel with the runway now. Coming up on the approach end of the runway. And we're about even with the threshold now. One notch of flaps. Hard to control descent rate when you lower these flaps. They're such big flaps, and when you lower them, the plane just balloons. So you have to push the nose down. Turning base leg. We'll add another notch of flaps. Balloons back up with that second notch of flaps. Push the nose down. Turning final. Third notch of flaps. Airspeed's good. Altitude's good. Coming down about 600-700 feet per minute. Controlling airspeed with elevator, altitude with throttle. Go high, back off on the throttle. Airspeed's good. Start our flare. And we're down. Let's slow down, make this first taxiway off to the right. Looks like I got a wheel off into the grass, so it takes a little bit of extra power to get this thing moving again. The extra friction from the grass. So as soon as we get clear of the runway, we'll stop and clean up the plane, taxi back to the parking. Flaps up. Boost pump off. Heat off. Carb heat off. Get rid of our electronic flight bag. And head for parking. Well, that's our flight. I hope you enjoyed it, maybe learned something. Some of the flight wasn't as smooth as I'd like it to be, but I'm still learning to fly Beaver. So hopefully I'll see you again real soon on another flight. Until then, fly safe.